So Adobe finally released just earlier this week Adobe Illustrator for the iPad. Now the big question for this video is this an application that is a must-have for illustrators and designers? Well, it does come packed with a lot of features. It's promised to come with symmetry with vectors, a multi-gradient tool where you can tweak each color and each point of your gradient, an auto-saving document feature with a version system to the cloud. You can import artwork from Photoshop and keep working on Illustrator. You can use your Apple Pencil to draw more organic vector looking shapes. You can choose fonts from thousands of fonts from Adobe fonts, or you can even import your own fonts. You can use gestures for combining shapes. You can easily add fonts to a path. You can tweak vector Bezier points in a much more fun and intuitive way than the desktop version of Illustrator. You can use the smoothing tool on your vector brush shapes. You can also use the grid tool to create repetitions, even in a circular grid system, and many more. So we're going to be talking about the good things and the bad things in this video. So this is something you definitely don't want to miss, as I believe you will find a lot of answers if this is a must-have application for you. My name is Leo and you're watching Ghost Paper. So now let's get to it. Alright, so in order for me to get this review going, I just want to say that first, I've spent only a couple hours using Adobe Illustrator. I've basically recreated one of my illustrations as well as checking some of these features as I was creating the illustration. So what I first wanted to get out of the way is the cons for this application. And then we can talk about the pros and the things that I really like, because I do feel that in this balance, it's actually important that if you don't mind all of the cons that I'm going to talk about in this video, Adobe Illustrator for the iPad may actually be a great software solution or application for you. So first things first, of course, the big elephant in the room is the pricing of this application and what's involved in that. So as we know, Adobe does have the subscription program, and I still find, and I also know that this sounds like a broken record, because when we reviewed Photoshop and Fresco, we also talked about similar things. But I think that in the case of Adobe Illustrator, it's even worse. Because for example, on Adobe Fresco, it actually works with a freemium model, meaning that you can still download and test out Fresco with some of its features. And if you decide that this is the app for you, you can then pay a subscription for the full unlocked version. Now, in the case of Adobe Illustrator here, what it seems like is that you're greeted with this beautiful animation, this beautiful landing page, which actually looks and feels a little bit like a paywall, where you do have to put your Adobe ID. And if you do have a subscription with Adobe Creative Cloud, you're then the doors are open for you to use Adobe Illustrator. You know, you can start a trial, but it means that you are then starting to commit with a subscription program. The second thing is always the list. You know, you download this application and you get the list of what's coming to Illustrator in the same way as we saw what's coming to Fresco, what's coming to Photoshop, only because really it never comes fully prepared. These applications are not ever fully released to all the features that they are promising to come out with. And I know this, of course, is the path of software and application. It's never released to its fully potential. There's the V1, V2, V3, so on and so forth. But what happens is that you see a demo and you watch a video and you see all of these amazing features they have been promising since last year from the previous Adobe Max. For example, turning your sketches into vector work. And that feature is not yet available. So when we click what's coming to Illustrator, it is more on the con side, but I do have to say that at least looking at this list is way less than when we saw on, I think Adobe Fresco, for example, didn't have some very basic things that were promised for the following versions. The biggest comment here on this second point is that what it feels like is that we're paying a subscription for them to finish software. So we're paying their bills for them to finish something instead of paying for a software so that we can use it to its full potential from the get-go, from the things that they've been showcasing and showing on streams and videos and whatnot. Now, those were the biggest things I would say for starting of this list of the cons. Now, in terms of UX and UI, some of the things that I've noticed that I wasn't quite a fan of is, for example, when you are here back in the landing page, you can create something new with these 4 options. You can create, most used canvases, such as you can 1920 by 1080, the HD format. You can do a letter as you're moving into print space, or you can create a poster, also a little bit more in the print space, or you can create something custom. However, if you click on any of these canvases or canvas presets, and if you draw any shape to it, or if you don't draw anything, as soon as you go back to it, as soon as you go back into the landing page and you look at the artwork that you have here to open, you don't really know what canvas they are in, because what you're getting here, it's basically a preview, or it's almost like it crops into the elements you have on that canvas. And the description on itself just says Untitled, or the title of the document says the date of creation and time frame, but it doesn't give you the aspect ratio or the pixel size or the point size or anything like that. And I do find this quite strange. And even clicking on the three dots, it doesn't give you that information as well. So I didn't really like that part, that you're just creating canvases, but then when you go back into gallery, you don't really know what canvas you have. Next, I did find that the app was a little bit laggy and even freezing on me a couple times. And I do, even when I went to check this version history feature, it did freeze even one time. And I do think this is part of like trying to speak or trying to communicate with the cloud system. So it could have been my Wi-Fi. I don't really want to blame it too much on my network, because I do all sorts of things here. I run a YouTube channel. I'm always like uploading, downloading stuff, but I did find that it was a little bit laggy on that sense. And also, once inside the application, I also did find that, I would click on things such as combining shapes, the combining shapes icon. And I do like that, in fact, when you click on it, it's trying to give you a preview, a live preview of what's going to happen. I did find this option actually quite cool and interesting. Not only showing you what you can do by adding, subtracting elements, but you see a visual of what you're going to get by doing that operation. But I did find that it was a little bit slow, in my opinion. Also, as I recreated this artwork, one of my vector like animals that I've done in a geometric fashion, I've done that in Procreate and I'm doing here in Adobe Illustrator. As I was creating that, I've noticed that the the helper tool, this like little circle that you can use for tapping with your other hand, and for example, draw something with a straight line, checking on angles and all sorts of things that this radial friend can actually give you here. I just found that it was always starting on the left, and I am left-handed. So there were a couple of things that I had to change in the options of Illustrator. You can then flip the interface to a right-hand interface in the sense that all the tools go to the right, and so does the touch shortcut as well. However, I actually, as I've been using many apps, I just wanted the touch shortcut to always appear on the right side. So basically the thing that I didn't like as a UX experience is that I gotta either flip everything to the right side so that I can use with my right hand, but that actually also flips the move tool, creation of shapes and all that stuff. Or I have to, every time I open a document, I have to move the touch shortcut, have to move all the way to the right. And that becomes quite repetitive, and I don't think, it's just something simple to actually get a bypass or just get it a slider or a check mark, or at least if you can remember where the touch shortcut was every time you open a file, I think that would be amazing. Now, these were some of the smaller things really in terms of what I didn't like about Adobe Illustrator here on the iPad. And lastly, the thing that I actually couldn't find, and if you do guys, please let me know in the comment section, is for something so powerful from the get-go, like the whole experience of creating vectors, and the whole great experience that the iPad Pro actually gives you as you're using the Apple Pencil to either draw, create vectors, or rasterize shapes, is that I just couldn't find a snapping to point system here or toggle in Adobe Illustrator, and that was just like mind-blowing for me. I could align objects, but I couldn't really align their points to other points, like corners to corners, for example. And as I'm creating this little tiger here in vector format, there are multiple instances where I actually needed to snap a vertex to another vertex. So once again, if you do know that, please let me know in the comments section of this video. But now let's talk about the pros, or the good things that I've actually found while working in Adobe Illustrator. Well, I did find the experience was actually quite good for transforming or porting Adobe Illustrator onto the iPad. I thought that actually the combining shapes feature that you can do with hand gestures was really great, and it was a great way of transporting the experience of combining shapes that we have been doing and we have done for so long on the desktop version onto the iPad. And I also thought that, the customizing gradients, using the grid system in this iPad version, they all felt really, really cool and really good to actually have that. And it was actually much faster to recreate this illustration here on the iPad. I found that the versioning system is something quite interesting because, in fact, if you are paying a subscription, you should be getting things that turn it into a more of a professional tool, meaning that the fact that you're paying for a fail-safe mechanism where you can go back in time and in history and find an older version and give that to a client, I do think that this is actually quite of a good solution. For example, we don't really have that in Procreate. And I always talk about that in my videos. I find that, once you hit the gallery button in Procreate and you exit your illustration, that's it. Whatever changes you've committed there. And it's more about you being responsible about your work in Procreate and making copies as you go, making duplicates of your illustrations. And that can get, it gets a little tiring to be making so many copies, but it's good for you to be doing that. You have to be backing up your files because once again, you hit the gallery button, all those changes are committed. Whereas here in Illustrator, although you are paying a price, you're also getting a versioning system. And the other thing that I find it quite powerful here is that for the price, for you having an iPad and actually, by paying a subscription or whatnot, you have a solution that is basically, it's almost like having a Cintiq for the desktop is what you have now for the iPad with Illustrator. Because you can then take your files back to the desktop. You can start by drawing with, once again, the great drawing experience that the iPad actually provides you. And you can then take that into an AI file that you can open on your computer. So if you already own an iPad, if you're doing work for clients, if you are a professional and doing lots of vector-based work, I really see this as something you can then tackle on to the budget of those projects. So you're not really going to pay for Adobe Illustrator. You should actually, put that cost, the cost of your hydro, the cost of your lights, your hours, your working hours, everything, you put that into the budget and you just charge the honest value you charge for the price of the work, really. But try to also put the price of Illustrator onto that budget. I think that's about being a smart freelancer, a smart professional when it comes to creating your work and needing these tools. So to kind of summarize this video, what I would say is this application a must-have for you if you're a creative, an illustrator, or a designer, and especially if you are creating lots of vector-based illustration? I think the best answer that I can give you is if you are a professional, then yes, you can consider Adobe Illustrator as being part of your tool set because you will get the amazing drawing experience of the iPad and being able to continue that on the desktop version. However, if you are just a hobbyist, if you're just creating things for fun, if you're just studying and learning how to create vectors, I would say don't get Adobe Illustrator because really for the price, for what you're getting, I think you should focus on other applications really, such as, for example, Vectornator. Vectornator is a great application for the iPad and is actually free. It's totally free for you to try and to use basically all of its features. And there are some great vector applications for the iPad. We can also talk about Affinity Designer, and although Affinity Designer does have a price point and I believe is more expensive than Procreate, you actually get a vector solution and a raster solution with it. So there's at least a couple things you can use on an iPad before you actually start paying $13, whatever the value is per month, to actually use Illustrator. So in conclusion here, I do think that it's a great release from Adobe to the iPad. It's not that it's a bad release. I do think that there's quite a few features here that are quite impressive. But I think this is a professional solution, and if you are still getting there on your journey, on your digital illustration journey, you should start with other apps. Once again, Vectornator is a great software that is free. I'll probably leave the link of Vectornator in the description. I have no affiliation with Vectornator. They haven't contacted me or anything. I just have been using Vectornator. And one thing that for sure exists in Vectornator is an ability to snap to points there. and many other things, including, I believe, a save to AI file as well. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, a like would be super appreciated, as well as make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of these tips and tricks, reviews, and speed paint videos. And that is all for you to become a better digital illustrator. Now on the right side of the screen, there's more content for you guys to watch. One is my latest upload, and the other one is a video that YouTube is recommending you to check it out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao.